Welcome and thank you for joining today. My name is Craig Rappaport and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Estimating Edge. Today, James Lee, our business analyst, will be covering how Edge On-Site works with the new module On Time, followed by Nathan Good, the project manager, who will be answering any questions you might have at the end. Before we get started, we have a couple of housekeeping items. First, all lines have been muted, but we will answer questions after the webinar. To ask questions, enter them in the questions window. We will answer these at the end. Second, I will send you an email that has a link to the recording. The recording will also be available to watch on demand on our website. Third, when you leave the webinar today, a pop-up window will open with a 4-question survey. We'd love to hear your feedback about the product. And finally, we have 2 handouts that are now available to you about Edge On-Site. Thanks everyone for joining, and James, let's get started.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you to everyone watching. So today's webinar will cover our new time tracking application, Edge On Time, and how it pairs with our existing job site project management application, Edge On Site. For those of you who don't know what is Edge On Site, so it's a job site project management application that gives you access to your estimate, takeoff, and change order data out in the field so you can monitor your production progress and job cost in real time against your estimate very easily. Since our last webinar, we've made some great changes to Edge On Site that we want to share with you today. Those new features include the ability for users to track production across multiple cost codes all at the same time, and of course, our new time tracking application, Edge On Time. So let's start by showing you a general overview of Edge On Site and our new multi-code tracking feature. All right, so the first question that'll come to mind with Edge On Site is, now that we've completed our bid in the Edge Estimator and we've been awarded that bid, how do we get the data from that bid out into the field so our personnel can view and track against it? So all that will start right here in the administration portal, which you can access by typing admin.edgeestimator.com into your Google Chrome browser window. Or from the Edge, you can hit this gear icon in the top right-hand corner, which will also take you to the administration portal. And once you log in, the first screen you should default to is your bids manager. And now what we need to do is just find the bid in which we want to activate. Right here is ours, and just give that a click. And you'll see a list of all the scenarios inside of this bid. Now, the one thing to remember here is that Edge On Site activates individual scenarios rather than the whole bid itself. So you may have some consolidation to do. But once we find the scenario in question, all we got to do is look to the right and hit what we call an ellipsis button. And you'll see a button that says Activate for Edge On Site. And if you give that a click, it'll go ahead and tell you to activate. And once you do that, we can take a look at where your data will actually go. So if we look to our left-hand side, we do have a menu option for Edge On Site, and this will become available once you pay for the product. And we can go ahead and hit our projects manager, and we can see a list of all the projects that we've activated. So here's our webinar project right here. We could take a look and see that we've got a peek at our net cost, gross price, and selling price. And at this point, we're ready to go ahead and fire up the iPad and take a look at the data out in the field and how the application actually works. All right, so you should now see an iPad on my screen. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the Edge On Site icon. So Edge On Site is a subscription-based application, but it is free to download from the App Store. And it'll work for iOS devices only. All right, and we also do have an iPhone application that pairs as well. All right, so let's go ahead and give that a click. And it'll go ahead and prompt you to log in. And once you do that, this is the first screen that you will see. So in the cloud section, you'll see a list of all the projects that your company currently has activated. And all you need to do to go ahead and be able to work inside these projects is hit the load button, which I've already done for this one project here. So now we can go ahead and tap open to take us inside the project. And the screen that we're on now is called our project overview screen. So if you look in the top left, you'll see some basic project information. A little below that, you can see we're bringing the total estimated hours over from the Edge. And most importantly, on the right-hand side, under the production stats column, we have all the different cost codes that are coming over from the Edge. Now, keep in mind as we look through at these, that whether you use user codes, budget codes, phase codes, or account codes, no matter what, we can bring those over for you, so not to worry. And these percentages that you see on the right will update in real time, and they represent quantity completion per code, and of course for the whole job. So once we upload some production, we'll go ahead and circle back here. But for now, let's use our toolbar on the bottom and jump to our Pages tab. And what we're going to see here is a list of all the sections and pages inside this project, along with a preview of the background image in this interactive carousel here. And the most important thing about this screen is that if you're on a job site that has bad internet connectivity or you can't get connected to LTE, we do allow you to download a page and we allow you to actually track offline. So if you look to the left of these page names and see this green check mark, that indicates that this page has been downloaded and that we can indeed enter this page and do our trackings even if we're not connected to internet. Okay, you just need to be connected to internet when you do initially download the page. And typically we'll have a button in the top right-hand corner here that says offline mode. And what that'll do is allow you to download all the pages in the job all at the same time. All right, so for now, let's go ahead and take our finger and tap where it says Camillus Wall and ACT to enter this page. And this is actually how you initially download the page as well. And now that we've done that, we're on what we call our project tracking screen. You can see that we bring your blueprint out to the field for you. And if we look on the right-hand side, we have some basic tools. We have a full screen mode. We give you the capability to add photos or notes to the drawing that can be communicated to the office or vice versa. So a great tool for back and forth, letting them see what's going on out in the field. We also have an undo and a redo tool along with a measurement as well. And if we look on the left-hand side, we see all the codes that exist on this page. So if I go ahead and take my finger and tap where it says interior framing labor, I'm actually going to get all the shapes coming from my edge takeoff as well. So we try to make things very visually appealing for your personnel out in the field and help them understand exactly what they're tracking. And if we hit this plus sign next to interior framing labor, we can actually take a look at all the different labor items inside of this code. But now that we have our code selected and we have our shapes, now we can talk about how to actually track production. So in Edge On Site, we give you 3 different methods of tracking your production. And we can start by talking about the first of those 3, which is called using our production crosshairs. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to tell the application which shape it is that we want to apply the production to. So if we focus on the ceiling area to the left, what we want to do is tap it with our finger, and that will turn the shape red, which if we look in the legend on the bottom left will tell us now that shape is selected. And what we want to do is we want to take our finger and tap that shape a second time. And if we look in the top left-hand corner, we'll see that we actually have a crosshair up there. And if we take our finger, we can drag that crosshair and create a visual representation of what's getting completed out in the field. Okay, and if you can actually take both ends of this completion and drag it to whatever corner of the shape you would like, and we tell you what percentage you're approaching as you do so. And once it looks accurate, you can look to the top right and hit this production button, and you'll be able to see what labor you're tracking, what code you're inside, and we're going to convert that percentage to a quantity format for you. And when all that looks right, you can go ahead and hit save, and we'll save that green completion shading. And then the next day or the next week, you can double tap this shape again, and you can drag that shape a little farther to indicate that you've done some more production if you'd like to, as here. And once I hit that production window, I'll see what I initially tracked versus what I'm adding and my total quantity and completion percentage. And then I can hit save. So this tool is great for controlling the visual aspect of how your production looks, and it's great for tracking one shape at a time. Let's go ahead and hit our back button and jump into another page, and we can talk about our second method of tracking production, which is called using the production slider. So I'm going to tap this flashing labor code on the left here, and let's say that we wanted to mark completion for all 4 of these curbs at the same time. Well, the first thing we need to do is be able to select all 4 of these curbs at the same time. So instead of tapping these line segments, I can take my finger and drag it across the screen. And whatever becomes encompassed in that blue box is then selected, as we see. And instead of double tapping anywhere to get my crosshairs, I'm going to go ahead and hit production right away. And we can see that I have my curb flashing labor here and my flashing labor code. But instead of any crosshairs, I'm going to look to the bottom left and use this slider here to go ahead and add my production. And once I get that to the percentage I want, I can hit save. And you can see here that I've just added 100% to all 4 of these curbs at the same time. So this is a pretty quick and easy way to mark your production as well. All right, so now we can hit back once more and jump into our third page and talk about our third and final method. And this is going to be called our quantity entry. All right, so if we look on the left-hand side, we can select our EAPS labor code. And this method is really applicable if you're taking measurements out in the field and you know exactly how many square feet or lineal feet got done. So instead of using a percentage, you can type in an exact number. All right, so we can go ahead and select our EAPS labor code, and we can focus on this exterior area right here and give that a select. And again, instead of double tapping to get our crosshairs, I can go ahead and hit the production button right away. All right, so I do want to jump back to the production slider for just a minute because I want to talk about how we see these check boxes next to each labor item here. If we were to uncheck some of these labor items and start assigning production with our production slider, take note of how the percentages only change for the labor items that are checked. So we do allow you to control how micro you're tracking and which labor items are getting completed out there. And so this is applicable if you have a code that has many different labor items inside of it as we see here. All right, but again, let's just go ahead and get our shape selected and hit production, and let's jump back to our third and final method, which is our quantity entry. So let's say we wanted to focus on this dense glass labor here at the top, and let's take a look at where it says 0 out of 926 square feet. If I were to tap my finger there, I'll get this pop-up we see here, and it allows me to type in an exact quantity. So I can go ahead and type in 500 square feet and then apply, and we can see it's going to convert that to a percentage for me. And if that looks good, I can go ahead and hit the save button, and then my shape will show some green shading to indicate that some of its labor items have some production. All right, so those are our three different methods of tracking production. It really just depends which you're most comfortable with and what the occasion calls for. All right, so at this time we can talk about a feature that's brand new to Edge on Site, which is our multi-code tracking feature. One thing to note is that this feature will become available for Edge on Site users early next week. All right, so let's say that for this roof area, we wanted to mark tear-off labor, underlayment labor, ISO labor, and roofing labor all complete for a certain portion of this roof area. As we've seen so far, we'd have to jump from one code at a time, either using our crosshairs or our production slider to assign the production. Well, we no longer require you to do that. So let's take a look at how it would work. If we look to the right-hand side here, we can see that our second icon from the top, that's going to be our multi-code feature. So if we give that a tap, we'll see a list of all the codes on the page, and we can select them individually or use the select all button at the top, as I'm doing now, and then we just hit continue. All right, so now this is the screen that you'll see, and what we want to do is go ahead and start tapping these codes, and what we're doing is we're bringing the shapes over that pertain to each of these codes. And now when I go ahead and select my roof area and hit production, I'm seeing labor items that exist in all 6 of these different codes right here. So when I use my production slider to assign 50%, I'm effectively able to track against all 6 codes at once. So if I go ahead and hit save, I now see my green shading. And so this is a great and powerful tool to really make your tracking more efficient and go ahead and speed that up for you. And one other thing I want to talk about is when you have all your codes condensed and you select your shape and hit production, for each labor item, we tell you how long the Edge said that it would take to complete this labor item here in the estimated hours column. And then we total that up for all the labor items in this window for you. So it's great for planning on the job site and knowing how long certain things should take. All right, and any production that we mark on this multi-code screen, if we hit back, we'll also be able to see on our normal tracking screen as well. All right, so at this point, we've tracked all the quantity that we need to for the day. All we need to do is connect back to internet so that we can go ahead and upload it through the cloud to be seen by the office side of things in the administration portal. So to do that, we go ahead and jump back to our overview screen, and in the top left, we hit a button that we call the hamburger button. And anytime you have production to upload, you'll see this daily production button here. So we can go ahead and tap that, and we'll see all the different labor items that we tracked for the day. And now we just want to go ahead and hit upload. Okay, and so right now this is sending the data through the cloud to be viewed in the administration portal. Okay, and now our upload has just finished and is successful. All right, and so again, if we wanted to, we could go into the administration portal and take a look at all this data. We can also see that on the right-hand side here, our code percentages are already starting to update. So this is what I meant by in real time. So we'll come back to the portal, but now let's talk about what's missing from this project. So we've tracked a bunch of production, but what about the hours and the time that go along with it? All right, so this is a great segue to talk about our new time tracking application, Edge on Time. So Edge on Time is a pay-per-use application. It's available for iPad or iPhone as well as Android devices. It's pay-per-use but free to download from the Google Play or Apple Store. And it's an application for your employees to go ahead and clock in and clock out. And it'll also track whether or not injuries happen on the job site. And it'll also produce all the data that you need to export for payroll information, all while going ahead and integrate with our project management application, Edge on Site. So let's go ahead and take our finger and click on this application, which is what the thumbnail will look like here. And it'll go ahead and prompt you to log in, just like Edge on Site. And once you do so, you'll see a list of all the projects your company currently has active. So we can take our finger and go ahead and tap on the name of the project to enter inside of it. And we're going to see the name of the project, and we're going to see my username because that's who I logged in with. So I'm set up to track my own time right now. Well, let's say that you're a company who wants their personnel in the field to clock in their entire crew and also clock them out. We do have a role that can be created and applied in the administration portal. And once that role is applied to a user, they're actually able to click where it says James Lee and select another user from this picker and track their time for them. So we do give you that capability. For now, let's just focus on me tracking some time for myself so we can see how this application works. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and select what code we're going to be working in for the day. So we can just use this code picker to move up or down and click done once we find the code that we need. And then we can see that our shift date and our start shift time will always default to the current date and time. But we are able to take our finger and tap where it says 2:30, and we can control what this time is going to be. So I can roll this back to 6 a.m. if I would like to, and then I can hit done right here, and that'll lock that time into the picker. And now all I need to do is go ahead and tap this clock in button. And once I do that, if we go ahead and look on the bottom in the activity section, we see we create a line item that tells you that what user clocked in, what time it was in the picker, and what time it was in the system when this action was executed, and also what code. All right, so at this point, we can go ahead and add a break. If we want to do that, we just click where it says select a break duration, and we can choose from one of these defaults, or we can enter in a custom break by hitting other. But for now, let's just go ahead and put it on 60 minutes and hit done. And then we just need to go ahead and tap this break button here. And again, that'll produce an activity line item for us right here. Now, one thing to note is that if you do a break in this format, this will go ahead and subtract the break duration from the total shift time. So if I enter in a 4-hour shift with a 60-minute break, Edge on Time will save that as 3 total hours. So if you're a company who likes to track your breaks but not have them deduct from the total shift time, we do have some capabilities for you as well. If we look to this general comment section right here, we can tap in there and type anything we like, such as 60-minute break, and then we can go ahead and hit add. And so this will create an activity line item for us visible in the portal that tells us we took a 60-minute break, but it will not subtract from your total shift time. Okay, and obviously this general comment can be used to communicate anything else of importance from the field. And now at this point, we just need to go ahead and clock out and end the shift. So again, I can use this end shift picker here to change the time. So I can go ahead and bring this to 9 a.m. if I would like. And then I can hit done. And now I just got to hit clock out. And so this is the pop-up you'll see. We see, was there an injury right here with a no or yes toggle? And if you toggle that to yes, it'll allow you to type in an explanation that can be seen in the administration portal. So you can get notes and understand exactly what happened and note that there was an injury. Or if you switch it to no, you have stored validation that no injuries occurred on the job site. So for now, we can just leave it at no and hit continue clock out. And again, if we look on the bottom, we see that we've successfully clocked in, added a break, and clocked out for my own user. All right, so now let's say, again, you're a company who wants one personnel out in the field to clock everybody in and out. We do give you a way to execute this action across a whole group rather than having to do it for one individual at a time. So if we look to the right, we see a group button here. Let's go ahead and give that a tap. And if we do that, we're going to see a list of all the users inside this project. And so we just need to go through the motions once again. We need to select a code. So if we do it in this portion, we can apply a code to all of the users. So if we go ahead and put framing labor in here, you now see framing labor assigned to each individual. However, I can also, to the right of each username, tap into their picker and assign them a unique code. So you are in complete control. So I can give 2 different codes to these individuals right here. And then all I need to do is adjust my start shift time, and I'll be able to submit this. So again, we can do another 6 a.m. And once that looks good, we just hit done. And then we use these bubbles here to select which users this is going to apply to. So I can go ahead and use the top to select all the users except for myself, since I've already been clocked in. And now we just have to hit submit. And you can see that I've successfully clocked in 5 individuals. And so you can use this same portion of the application to go ahead and add breaks. But for now, let's just go ahead and clock these individuals out. So again, here's all my users, and we can see that 5 of them are clocked in. So I can use this bubble here to select all 5 of them. And then I just need to adjust my end shift time so we can make that 9 a.m. once more. And then we just need to hit done and submit. So I have 9 a.m. and I hit submit. And now I've successfully clocked out those 5 individuals. And the last thing to note is if we go ahead and we switch our user picker to a different user, such as my colleague Troy Good here, we can see that the activities will change based on whatever user's in the picker. So we saw that we assigned a unique code of EAPS labor to Troy, and so that's why we're seeing the activities that pertain to only him in the activities section, since that's the user in the picker. All right, and so that's how the Edge on Time application works. We try to give you an easy-to-use interface while still getting all the important data you need. So now we can go ahead and jump into the administration portal and see where all this data is stored. All right, so here we are on the administration portal. And again, we're going to use our Edge on Site menu on the left. And if we click that, If you've paid for the time tracking application, you'll see these two time tracking menu options right here. So let's go ahead and look at our users view first. So we're going to get a list of all the individuals who have been tracking hours with our Edge on Time application here. And if we click this plus sign, we can see how the hours they have attributed to their individual are distributed across whatever projects they exist in. And here's your total hours on the right-hand side here. But most importantly, let's go ahead and click on the username of one of these individuals, and it allows us to actually enter in a date range. So let's say we wanted to see all the shifts from today's date, which we can do just right here. So November 19th, and hit search. And so here I see a list of all the shifts for myself across this date range. So I see the shift date, the name of the project, what code I was in, and I see my start and end shift date and time, along with my break total. So here we see we had a 3-hour shift with an hour break. So there's how it deducted and made it 2 total hours. Now we do allow you to hit this edit button and change the start shift date or time, as well as the end shift date or time, and your break durations and any notes that you'd like to add. And of course, we actually allow you to delete an entry as well. But most importantly, for any user across any date range, we allow you to pull up payroll information that can then be exported by Excel spreadsheet or PDF here and dumped into whatever payroll application you're using. We also have an open API that you can work with us with to develop an export that's more tailored to your needs. All right, so a pretty simple way to get really powerful payroll information. And if we X out of here, the only other thing I want to talk about here is that in the top right, we do give you another managerial capability, which is to add a time card from the portal itself. So you get a similar layout to the iPad here, where we can actually create a shift. All right. So now we can go ahead and use our Edge on-site menu option to talk about our projects view of time tracking. And here we'll see a list of all the projects with hours inside of them. So we can go ahead and give that a click. And what's important about the projects view is that this is where our sync functionality is housed. And our sync functionality is how we get our hours from Edge on Time and transfer them over into Edge on Site. And the reason that you want to have your hours transferred over is so that you can have your production and time all in the same location. And the reason you want that is so you can start to calculate your actual production rates and compare them to your estimated production rates and make all kinds of decisions about your job. So let's take a look at how simple and effective this sync is. In the top right, anytime you have a sync to complete, you'll see this button, which we can click, and we'll see how many hours we're syncing for each of the codes here. And we can leave these all on proceed and just hit this submit button. And then we'll see a green check mark next to each code indicating that the time was indeed synced. All right, so now we can use our Edge on Site menu to jump to our projects manager. And now let's take a look inside our webinar scenario here project and then go to our what we call the labor screen. All right, and so here we are. So now we can take a look at our code, interior framing labor, and see that we now have in our actual column both hours and quantity. Okay, so the quantity came from the iPad and the hours were synced over from Edge on Time. Now, what's important about this is now that we have both of those, our forecast information is starting to fill up. And this is really the bread and butter of Edge on Site. So we'll take your actual unit per hour production rate, which is about 43 square feet per hour, and compare it to your estimated unit per hour, which is 50. And so we'll tell you by how many dollars and hours you'll finish behind if you continue to work at that rate. And for areas where you're behind, we'll actually give you a target unit per hour to work at to get back to par. And for areas where you're going to finish ahead, we'll also give you that information as well. And so you can always filter this screen by a certain date range and export it as PDF or Excel and dump it into your accounting software if you'd like. Okay, so you've seen how Edge on Site works. You've seen how Edge on Time works and how their data combines together and how powerful it can be. The last thing I want to talk to you about today is that we do give you a way to enter time into a project without using Edge on Time. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our projects manager, and let's take a look at our webinar part 2 project here and go to our labor screen. So we see that we have a bunch of codes here that do have actual quantity, but they need their hours. So if we look in the top right-hand corner, we can see 2 different functionalities here, and these are going to be our 2 methods of entering time that are specific to Edge on Site. All right, so upload bulk hours. This is a way that you can dump in a formatted spreadsheet to this screen and apply all your hours that way. So this spreadsheet is something we'll work with you in training to help you format. It'll require some uniformity in the numeric layout of your codes, but it's a very simple and effective way to get your hours into here from wherever you store them. Okay, and next we have this edit hours functionality here. So we can take a look at this by giving it a click, and it'll prompt us to go ahead and put in a date range here. So we can use today's date, but in real life scenarios, most users will be entering in time across a week or a month. And here we see all the codes in which we track production during this date range. And so now we just need to reference wherever we have our information and figure out that for the relevant code across this date range, how many actual hours do we have here? So we can go ahead and just type in some information here, and we see we have 90 hours, and we can hit save. And now if we scroll to the bottom, we see that we indeed saved our 90 hours. And now that we have hours and quantity, our forecast information is starting to populate once again. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to show you today. The last thing that I wanted to note is that as we've seen, Edge on Site can be used as a standalone product, but Edge on Time requires a subscription to Edge on Site at this moment to be used. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to go ahead and open things up for any questions from the viewers.
All right, James, it looks like we've just got a couple questions that have come through. One of the questions is, do we allow you to track from different areas on a shape? As of right now, we don't. You do get one selection to track your area across the shape. So it's going to be from one direction. So if you have an area, you'll be able to mark it from one corner. Now you can adjust which corner, and you'll be able to use one box across that shape. We do have plans in the future to introduce a way for you to be able to mark production from multiple different areas on the same shape, and that should be coming in a future release. The next question that we have actually relates to the GPS. One of our customers have asked if there's GPS location available for when people track their time. Yes, there is. So you do have the ability to see where the actions are performed for each of those users as they're clocking in and out. And you can actually get access to that from the administrative portal like James is showing here. All right. And those are the last questions that we have, guys. So if you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to email or call. We will be happy to assist you. And thank you again for attending, and have a great day.
And lastly, if you'd like to see a personalized step-by-step demo, please go ahead and contact your sales representative. Thanks again for watching, and have a great one.